not a Jeep expert or anything, but my understanding is the fact that this exhaust system and this manifold together and the injectors, all their location seems to been too close together. I'm not sure, maybe the shape of the hood contributes to it, but that's where the overheating problem in this Jeep seems to happen. It's not so much when I'm driving it, because this car has a 3-fan system in it. Most of the problem occurs when you park it for 10 minutes and you come back. I do have it to where I can run 1 fan momentarily all the time on this, but it's still, when I'm off-roading, and I'm not talking extreme off-roading, just going up pretty good hills and stuff, it does seem to climb into the hotter temperatures. Not to where it overheats. We just change the gearing for that a little bit, and hopefully these vents will bring down the temperature in this compartment a little bit by letting that hot air out instead of sitting in here and boiling the fuel or whatever actually takes place. Again, I'm not an expert at this. I just happen to have these vents, and this seemed like a good place to put them. Okay, so these are the hood vents that we're going to use. Like I say, we developed these for UTVs for certain applications. They come in 2 pieces. The back plate, which nobody will see, is threaded. The front place has got 3 mounting locations with a J down here directly across from the top screw. So you can visually line this up pretty good without even a measurement. The 2 will go together. These are threaded. I believe those are M5 threads. And when they're together, you place the screen in between the 2. There's an air gap for it. Holds it securely. I know in some states you're going to worry about rain and stuff like that. Up here it's not an issue so much. We only get about 5 to 10 days a year of rain. And in my case, I would probably put duct tape on the bottom of these and line them up in a row here. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we go further into this. Would be a simple fix for a rainy day. And if you're in a rainy season, and if I sell a couple of these, I'll probably make a plug for the outside of them at that point. So this is our general idea of what we're going to do. I just wanted to use some real basic measurements. I know if I place the first one at 6 inches down from this edge and 24 inches over from this edge in the center, I won't be running into any gusseting on the other side or anything like that. It'll be a direct bolt-on. We tried to make this easy to where anybody could do it. I'd need to be up a little higher to get an accurate hole, but you'll see that when I do install them. Then I decided to put another one at 6 inches to the center from each, and another one. I know I just set them down there, they're not straight. I'm gonna mount the first one first, kind of use the screw holes as index points, and the logo again. These are available in multiple colors: red, blue, silver, black. So I'm going to use black. They'll stand out the most on this car, and I'm only going to use 3. And that dimension I mentioned from here is basically right over the top of your fuel injection bar, or whatever they call it, and where your injectors are. And it's not near any electrical components. Everything's on that firewall there. This is just going to hit some mechanical stuff. I guess it's going to fall in the injectors, but I would hope to God that the injectors were waterproofed anyway. So this is the beginning of the project. I'm going to put one on, and then I'll actually go through putting the other 2 on. All this really requires to install is a hole saw. And there are better hole saws than other hole saws. I've used wood hole saws to go through steel before, but today I'm going to use a steel one. I didn't try to do a whole bunch of math on this. I set this at 24 inches. Put a line right here. Came down 6 inches from the edge of this. Oh, it's about 6 inches. Put a line, then center punch it right there. And that is the center of the very first one. That'll determine everything. I'm not even going to measure the others. I'm just going to use a string line, and when it looks straight, put them in there. Okay, so I'm going to drill a hole now where I put the center punch. And this will just kind of determine everything where it's starting from. Hope I don't drill into the engine. Oh, I think I made it. Okay, as you can see right now, I'm just putting a After the pilot hole, I just screwed a sheet metal screw into it. And this is how I'm going to pick up my straight line, hopefully. I know this is pretty cheesy, but I'm trying to get this done like in 10 seconds. Gonna pull this a little bit up against a screw here. And then we're gonna argue about whether who's straight and who's not. Again, all our stuff is based on basically putting 3 vents in a 1 foot long space. So I'm gonna set this up here like that, just because I'm cheesy. Then I'm gonna tell my buddy here that that's not straight. Make him move it over, even though it went right back to where he put it. Does that look straight, buddy?
Looks pretty good to me.
All right. So now all I'm gonna do is flip this. Get that about 12 inches. I'm gonna put a mark right here and right here. And then I'll come back to 6 inches and I'll do the same thing. These are the center lines for the other 2 vents, so let's hope this all pans out. Who knows, this could be a disaster. Okay, so I drilled the first hole using a hole saw with this. I changed my dimensions by 1/2 inch. I went to 6.5 inches down from here because I noticed that I was going to get up against a piece of structure on the inside here. But it turned out pretty good doing the hole. After you do a hole, you should probably use a deburring knife on the inside, go around it, and just take off the excess metal. Makes it a nicer hole. So we're going to drill the other 2 holes since the first one was successful. And like I say, I moved everything down 1/2 inch after my initial setting, hence the 2 holes in it. We're going to go to the furthest hole towards the front. So what we're going to use, this is a steel hole saw right here. This one dimension for our part is 44 millimeters or 1 3/4. This makes the job so easy. You can see that it's a tapered bit up here, different dimensions. So it's easy enough to get started. I say that and watch me just have this thing run all over the hood. Okay, so we'll go to the pilot hole, start going into it. Got to make sure your drill's a little bit, you want it to be straight. And this kind of fell straight anyway, so it really wasn't that hard to do. Okay, simple enough hole. Turned out pretty good. Might be off to one side or another, but again, I didn't measure anything on this. So we'll go to the next hole. Okay, as you can see, the 3 holes, I guess, are in line. Close enough. So that was a pretty easy task right there. Anybody can do it. You don't need well, I'm not a mechanic and I was able to do it, so fair enough. We'll clean this up and I'll also show you the inside of it so you can kind of see what I was talking about moving the holes down a little bit. I was a little concerned if I was going to hit that furthest back hole into that structural piece right there, and I wanted it to be smooth and easy to do. So kind of achieved that part. We're going to deburr the holes right now, and the next phase of this will be lining up the vents and marking the holes for that. Okay, so I got 2 of these successfully mounted. You only need to see how I did it. I had to develop a little bit of a technique to get these on, or drill the holes actually. One thing I would recommend is after you drill your hole, take black paint and go around, or red paint, any color, doesn't matter, and cover up the raw metal. But don't do it until after you have all the holes drilled. I found after I did this, it made it harder to drill the hole and line it up with my eyeball, and it would just be better to do this as one of the last steps. As far as visual, movement of the part. Just kind of, the blackness kind of hid the body from me. It was a little bit more difficult. So since I didn't do a lot of measuring on this, I just kind of eyeballed it all in. This part is pretty critical right here. I've tried to keep all these in line and keep the top screws in line with the bottom J's all the way down. And this is where it got hard to see. Once I put that black around here, I could no longer see the metal. I had to feel more for it. But what I did is I took a pencil after I got it straight and what I think is right, did that. I came along after I marked it, came up with a hole punch, put it on that circle, kind of made sure this was all centered again so I didn't lose track of anything, and I punched it. Then I decided instead of drilling the actual size holes, I was going to drill pilot holes in all these so I could move this around and index it. And it doesn't hurt to actually over drill this hole size slightly if you're not happy with getting it centered. The material here hides a lot of, well, if you had to put a bigger hole in it, you certainly could, because you got surface area here to hide it with. I just kind of found that out in this one. I had to open this hole up a little bit more than what it was. And I'm using a drill that goes right through here tightly. Just make sure I get a nice loose fit, because you are going to be able to adjust this around a little bit in the end and line everything up maybe just a little bit better than I did. Again, like I was saying, the drill I'm going to use actually fits through here kind of tight, but I want to maximize the wiggle room I'm going to have with the M4 flatheads. Also, earlier in this video I said those were M5, they're M4 that I'm using, and they come with it. They're all stainless steel, as is the screen, so should have no rust problems whatsoever. And again, the black paint is just to stop rust too. We'll drill this hole out and move forward. So now we're going to go with this hole, open it up to its right size. So this top hole here, I drilled a little bit bigger because I knew I was going to have a hard time since I didn't hit it right on the money. But by drilling a little bit bigger, it gives me forward and backwards movement, which is kind of nice. Now it's just a matter of me lining this up, getting all these bolts halfway lined up decent. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with it. Again, I'll mark it with a pencil. It's easy to use a pencil. It's easy to get off of there and to move it again. Double check the bolts again. Looks pretty darn good. I am going to adjust this one slightly. Now I'm happier. Again, I will take the punch, move this aside, go to the center. See the bolt disappear? That's the third one I've dropped in the hole like that. You'd think somebody would learn. So again, now I got my center things. I'll drill these to the with the pilot drill again, and then open them up with the drill that was tight in here, and this should go right on. Okay, putting the pilot holes in. Getting a little shaky, but really all you got to do is take your time with this, and then everything will go out perfect. If I was to do this again from start to finish, it would be less than a 1 hour job, providing I can line up my drill. So pilot holes are exactly where I want them. I know this is going to line up good. I'm going to check it one more time just to see if I need to open up anything. At this point, this is pretty much a go. Okay, putting in the actual holes. There would be no problem if I was off a little bit to go one size bigger than these holes. And at this point in time, I don't think I have to. It looks like it's lining up perfectly. It sometimes just makes it easier to get the two parts together. This is pretty much a fixed ring. If you notice that this screen is cut perfectly to fit into this indentation right here, and that's where it rides. Sometimes when you go to put this on, the screen may shift out of it a little bit, and you'll know that when you go to tighten it down. It'll be high on some part of this. It's not a big deal. It's easy to correct. So right now we're going to mount this. Give me a second and I'll be right back. There may be an easier way of doing this, but I just set the screen in here, put the screws in this part right here, and I'll put two in, get them lined up. Again, the screws are a little oversized, so it's easy enough to correct. Just move that around a little bit until it kind of, you can get all through three screws in it, or bolts, and that's basically set to tighten up. To tighten it up, we're going to open up the hood here and show you another process. We just have the screws coming through that. They'll be on the inside of the hood. This is the ring here with the M4 holes in it that correspond with this. It does take two people to put this on. I guess if you were really talented, you could do it by yourself. But one thing we do recommend on all products is that you put blue Loctite on the threads. This is just like a nut, except it's a ring. Just for the long-term blue Loctite. Got all the screws in and that. We're ready to start assembling this and put the bolts into the holes, I suppose. Helps if you have a second person. Now you can switch the side. Okay, so Tyler and I are going to line up this ring. As you can see, this is a pretty easy process if you have somebody to help you. Just a matter of getting the next screw started, which it felt like it did. Now, we're going to show you what can happen here. As you can see, I put the screen in incorrectly in purpose here. And what that's going to do, it's going to tighten up at this end more in here. So if you see an air gap anywhere around this thing, it means you need to adjust the screen. And I can actually do that from right here, if I could find it. And I'm just going to move it until I can feel that everything's sitting flush, which it's not quite yet. There. So now I know I can tighten this up, and as you see, after it's tightened, the mating surface is perfectly round with no air gap or anything like that at all. So we're going to do the finished tightening on this at the moment. Hopefully everything's going to go well. Feels like it so far. Once you get the screws started, it's pretty much just tighten them up. You're just using that plate, and this thing's still staying in the center. And that is basically the completed project. And again, I'm not over tightening this because I know I got blue Loctite. By tomorrow, these bolts will not be able to come out. Then we'll just take a look and see what it looks like from under the hood. Right now it's looking pretty good from up here. It appears to be relatively straight. And you can see there's not much of a protrusion or anything sticking down here. It's all pretty clean and sano. It's not going to be hitting anything yet. If you view it from the front, it is right on top of the fuel bar, and this is where most of the problem seems to come as far as these things getting hot and whatever happens when they get hot. Hopefully this is a cure. Okay, so this Jeep's not running that hot or anything. I think it's got 2 fans on at the moment. The inside temperature or temperature gauge looks like it's functioning pretty good. This is with the new vents in the hood. The real test will be after I shut it down to see if it doesn't overheat. It sits for about 15 minutes and then you shut it off, sitting still like this. You can kind of tell if it's going to overheat or not and boil the coolant. So the vents are installed. They're working pretty good. I've noticed that the front one runs at a higher temperature than the back one. They sit nice and flush. I just got back from the car wash. Hardly any water went anywhere where it wasn't supposed to. Most of it just, actually there wasn't hardly any water in there. Wasn't near any electrical stuff or whatever, so that kind of turned out good. I think if I was to do this again, I would tighten these up and do 4 of them. I can't go another one and maintain the 6 inches. The front one definitely runs hotter than all the rest of them, so it is letting heat escape. Okay, so here's the rear one. It's running at about 107, 105, sitting here idling, 2 fans on. Here's the second one. It jumps up substantially more. We're heading towards, probably, well, you see what it did. The third one in the front is definitely the one that runs hotter. Although now it's not too bad. I don't know, but earlier on this one was definitely hotter. It might be climbing a little bit. Well, there we're showing that it's gone up. So, does it fix everything? I don't know. Does it help? Most likely. Anyway, that's the conclusion of our little video here. This is just the last bit of this messing around. Seems the header, the front here, is the hottest part. You can kind of see what it's doing. Car's been running for about 15 minutes with 2 fans on right now. There is a third one, but it hasn't kicked on yet. So that gives you an idea of how hot that is. Then we'll do the intake manifold. That's running at about, well, you can see, I don't need to tell you. And then we put a block in between the manifold and the air body, or whatever you call it. This runs a bit cooler. It's probably not a bad idea to put one of these in there, just for the fact that it kind of keeps the air a little bit cooler, but for no other reason. The top of the engine is about 150 degrees. It seems to be consistent. Then we'll do the block over here. The motor itself seems to be running around 160. The hose. Thought you'd just like to see that. Don't know why. Something to do.